Hey everybody, so this is kind of a combination of two questions. Can Fae or other beings appear as like a distortion of reality? And losing the question here, what was the other one? Um, can they can they choose whether we see them or not? Can beings choose whether we see them or not? So a couple of things. So yes, on the physical distortion of reality, you can look somewhere and see. I often call it I use two references. So you can look and see the outline of a Fey being, or it doesn't have to be a fairy. Let's be clear. It could be any type of being. They could be galactic fairy. They could be from any other world, but just out of our spectrum of light or out of our brain's ability to process what they are. And so they could be standing there. Let's just take a gnome. Take a gnome. Most people are familiar with a garden gnome. Doug, the juniper gnome, who's around me. There are different types of gnomes, but just think of a generic garden gnome, pointy hat, beard, short type of creature or being. If you saw that standing there, oftentimes what you would physically perceive. Now, this can shift, and some people can actually physically perceive their likeness. Most people, or what I experience too, is this this haze of energy. You see energy, you see their energy. So it looks like a distortion. Now, what I mean is, if you go outside on a really hot day and you look at the pavement and you see the heat coming off the pavement and it distorts everything behind it, you can see the waves of heat. It's kind of like that, but there's a shape to it. There's a shape of a gnome. The other reference I like is if you've seen the Predator movies from the 80s, and they've remade some in recent years, Alien versus Predator and Predators and this and that. The Predator has technology to go invisible. But even though he's invisible, he'll be sitting in a tree or beside something, and you can still see him standing there. If you look, it's like you can see the outline because the the light around him, even though it's reflecting the back and all of that, there's still enough of a shift that you can see where they're at. It's like that. Those are the two examples I like to use for the most part. Now, that doesn't mean everything. Some stuff is physically seen. You look like Galactic walks out of the woods. The one that I can think of is the mantid walking up on the dune where I physically saw him, or some of the other beings that I've physically seen. Some of them are third eye. So you see them in your third eye, which means you see the world around you, but your third eye is like an overlay. So you don't see the haze or any of that. You see the being, but if you close your eyes, you still see it with your third eye. If you open your eyes, you can shut your third eye off and like filter it type of thing. It's just an overlay, like having another television, or they're saying if your eyes were a piece of paper, it's like your third eye takes another piece of paper, and if it's a Sasquatch, it lays a Sasquatch sticker on top of it so that you can see it. If that helps. Probably going to help somebody because that's the reference they used. And so you can see them in a variety of ways, and that physical distortion is one of them. Now, physical distortion too, they're saying you might physically see them in the corners of your eyes, the peripherals, and they disappear. But if they disappear and you look, you might actually still be able to see the energy moving through. The other question was about, can they choose whether we see them or not? Yes and no. Um, there's a lot of lore out there that says fairies can choose whether you see them. That's really only if you're low consciousness, if you're not higher consciousness, because if you can see energy, you can see them no matter what. That's the thing. There have been times where fairies have looked at me. I've had there's one popping in my head of a goblin sitting on a stump making faces and taunting me, and I looked at him like, I can see you. And he's like, you could see me? What do you mean? Oh, I didn't know you could see me. the vibration dictates whether or not you can see them, the frequency that you can experience. If you're used to the frequency that they exist at, you can experience them with sight. Now, whether or not you physically see them or your third eye depends on how you experience the world, but you are able to, like, they can, for lower conscious people, if they appear, they can phase out. There are beings like Sasquatch that can go into different vibrational spaces and appear to just disappear. There are beings like them too who are masters of consciousness where they can telepathically just override your mind. But the higher you go, the stronger your mind becomes, the more pure you become, the more vibrationally higher you become in frequency, the less that becomes a thing. The more you can see them and experience them and know they're there. For example, like Sasquatches are a good one that to use where, I'd go down into the ravine and there was a river there, and they were shocked when I could see them because usually they just hide from everybody. They hide their mind. Nobody can see them. They can choose to come and go. And then once I saw them, there was like no hiding from me because I know I can feel their frequency. So even if I can't see them in my third eye, I can feel their frequency. I can feel them where they're at, type of thing. And that's with other beings too, fairies, all that. So you get to a vibrational space where hiding is not as easy as people would think. And the more you work with those vibrations, the more you integrate those frequencies and those experiences, the more you can experience them without them having a capacity to hide from you. So can they hide from you? Yes. All the time, it depends on the strength of your frequency. It depends on what frequencies you have integrated and experienced. And it depends on their capacity to override your frequency, basically. And I don't mean that in a bad way. What I mean is uh, telepathically, like if you have a weak mind, that's where people see Sasquatches and sometimes they disappear. They could be standing right in front of the person still, but they're blanked out. Their mind's blanked. They just see the forest, type of thing. Sometimes they do dimensionally shift. Other times it's that. Galactics do that a lot. Galactics, you know, override the mind and make it so you experience something less fearful or don't remember the experience in that. So that would be a way of like choosing whether we see them or not. So hopefully that answers the question. It's kind of a yes and no. It just depends on your state of consciousness and your ability to handle them. And like I said with the fairies, it's integration and just knowing and feeling their vibration and being able to go like, I might not see you with my eyes, but I can see you with my third eye. And just because you're taunting me on a log doesn't mean I don't know you're there, type of thing. There, remember, there are many different ways to see. People expect sight to be the physical eyes. There's much more to it than the physical eyes. There's the feeling of energy, which helps build an image. And there's third eye sight, which is another television screen. There's emotional energy, which can help build the image, telepathy, all these different things. Everything comes to help build the image that you're experiencing. So hopefully that helps. Thank you again, and much love to you all. Grateful for each and every one of you.